My name is Kerrie, and my goal is to inspire healing and meaning in all areas of life. In this podcast, we will dive deep into conversations. From heartbreak to freedom, we will explore different self-care modalities, learn to be the best expressions of ourselves, and to live with purpose. I'm here to offer my personal insights and to share my story in hopes that it will guide you on your path. This is Heal with Care, a journey of self-discovery. I had listened to podcasts and read books on manifesting, so much so that I was beginning to think that this was a joke. But after landing the perfect job in the perfect working environment, I was blown away. So when my 12-year relationship ended abruptly, I decided I was going to do something similar, to conjure up my perfect man. And if you've been following along with my podcast, you know by now that he actually showed up. There is so much information out there on manifesting, but what I've discovered when it comes to bringing your desires to life is that you need to truly be ready for them. Oftentimes we think we're ready to get what we want, but the universe knows exactly where we are and what we're ready for, and if we are ready to receive it. In today's episode, I'm going to share my story of how I managed to bring what I desired into my life and some of my personal observations. So let's take a step back for a second. I was working in an environment where I felt like I was swimming in negativity, and I just needed a change. So I decided it was time for something new, and I started applying for other jobs. I remember receiving a lot of tips and advice on how to dress, what to say, how to say what other people wanted to hear, and so on. I never actually was the type of person to fake it till you make it. So what happened next was a result of my choices. Going into interviews, I was mainly myself. The only difference was that I was not true to my values, and I made it seem like I enjoyed working long hours, I didn't mind the long commute, and I dressed differently from how I usually dressed. When I landed this job, I felt like I always had to put on a mask, pretending everything was okay, even if I didn't feel that way deep down. Stepping into this environment often left me feeling more mentally drained than when I arrived. It was exactly what I didn't want, but the only thing keeping me coming back to work each and every day was the fact that I was making much more money than I was before. But I wanted a better life, and at the time, this seemed like it, and I felt like I had to pretend to be someone else and to just suck it up in order to make it work. So let's just say I didn't last long in this new environment. Everything felt surface level. I wasn't getting the support I needed to succeed. And on top of that, I didn't know how to say no or stand up for myself. I kept saying yes to everything and people pleasing to the point where I ended up with longer working hours, no time for myself. I started to feel depressed and completely overwhelmed. I started wondering if I can even keep doing this. And if I couldn't, then did this mean I'm a failure? And I knew deep down if I continued this way, I was only going to be hurting myself. Later, when I had noticed I was crying consistently on the way home and feeling frustrated, trapped, I remember thinking to myself, if this is how life is going to be, I'm not going to make it. And for some strange reason, that day, I subconsciously decided to organize and clean up my desk, not realizing that this would end up being my last day at this organization. That weekend, my energy was completely drained, and I realized I couldn't pull myself to get out of bed. I didn't understand what was happening to me, so I decided to book an appointment with my doctor. When my doctor saw me, she told me I was stressed. And I'm thinking, me? Stressed? Like, yes, there's a lot going on, but was I really stressed? I thought I should be able to handle it. People do this all the time. And if I couldn't, what did this mean? Did this mean I was weak? Those were all the questions and thoughts that swirled around in my head. I was already in therapy, and my therapist supported the idea of me taking some time off. But even during this time away, I found myself still stressing about my financial future. I worried about what everyone else thought of me, and I didn't know if I could go back to that job. How would I show my face there again? Would I ever be able to find another job? Would I ever feel like myself again? So many thoughts ran through my mind, and I didn't know where to start. My therapist kept encouraging me to do something just for myself and not to worry about work or money, just focus on me. So I finally did. And during that time, I decided to make a very intentional list. That list had 2 columns. It included one column of everything I didn't like about my current job, and then I created another column of everything that was missing or what could have been better. I remember writing things like getting support from my manager and peers, being able to talk with my coworkers. I know that we spent 40 plus hours together, and I wanted to feel like I was walking into a space that felt like family. At that point, I didn't care about how much money I was making. I just wanted to be in a more positive environment. One that felt safe, one where I felt like I had room to breathe and I wasn't looking over my back, and one that took mental health more seriously. This list was one of the most important pieces for me calling in exactly what I desired. It wasn't about having it all down on paper, it was about getting very clear on what it was I really desired. It was also about really knowing and believing that I desire to be treated so much better. I made it very clear what I was no longer going to tolerate, especially the nitpicking, the bullying, and that feeling of not enoughness from my manager. At the beginning of my leave, I applied for so many jobs that I couldn't even remember all the companies I applied for. After my therapist encouraged me once again to stop worrying about work and finding a job, I finally took her advice to heart and I surrendered. I stopped putting so much pressure on myself to find work, and instead I shifted my focus towards myself, my health, and my own well-being. I had to learn how to let go of the guilt I felt for not being at work. I had to take a step back and gave myself time and space to truly focus on my recovery and on taking care of myself. I started to go to the gym so I can move that stagnant energy. I did my physio stretches that I had been neglecting because I didn't have the time. I started cooking healthier meals. I painted. I spent more time with my dogs. I was basically doing whatever my heart desired. One day, something shifted within me. I made a conscious decision that I didn't care how much I was going to be making. I knew I deserved a whole lot more and I deserved to be treated better. And I didn't care if that required me taking a pay decrease. I was going to move on and find something that was closer in home where I wouldn't have to commute that long because my health was too important to continue putting myself through that. After this decision, I got 2 interviews out of the blue. I also decided that it didn't matter who was interviewing me, I was going to be myself. And if they liked me, great. If not, that was going to be their loss. I wasn't going to make myself any more or any less than I was. I was just going to be 100% me. What was very clear on my list was how I wanted to feel at work, and in order for me to achieve that, I had to be myself, no ifs or buts. I walked into 2 interviews just being me. One accepted me the following day and we agreed on a starting date, which turned out to be exactly the day after my stress leave was up. I was, of course, very nervous going into a new environment, but I quickly got comfortable and I was laughing and smiling before I knew it. As time went on, I was excited to see my coworkers. I had a very supportive manager. I was working for a great team. Everything was going so well. It was exactly what I had desired. Later on, I wanted to meet more people and to have more spiritually aligned coworkers near me. So, after the COVID-19 outbreak, we were working from home for about a year and then we were going back to the office. When I went back into the office, I had this intention that I wanted to meet more spiritually aligned people. And funny enough, I ended up moving to a desk which was surrounded by coworkers that had similar interests and were open to astrology, energy work, mediumship, and so on. So it totally worked out and I couldn't have asked for a better working environment. What I can say about manifesting is that our needs and desires will change over time. The more we learn, grow, and experience, our idea of what is important to us will shift. So that means there will always be something new that we are aligning as we grow and evolve. The next story I want to share is about calling in my perfect partner. I remember my very first boyfriend. He wasn't someone I wanted to be with, but at the tender age of 15, I was encouraged to explore and gain experience. This didn't sit well with me, but I did it anyways. From the beginning, this relationship was built on lies from both sides. We were both immature. We're just trying to figure out who we were, and I think to some degree we both just wanted to fit in by being together. This relationship didn't last more than a month or two, and after that experience, I never wanted to be in a relationship again. It took another 2 years before I decided to give dating a try. With each relationship that followed, I realized there were qualities I really liked about the person I was with, while there were other parts I wish were different. I think most of us struggle with accepting people exactly as they are. Sometimes there is this power struggle and we want to change our partners to better suit our own wants and needs. But it is so important to remember that the other person also has their own needs as well. So, one of the biggest lessons I have learned from my last relationship was that you can't change someone unless they want to change. Growth has to come from within, and both people need to be willing to grow together. Sometimes, despite caring for one another, people grow in different directions. And when that happens, it's okay to accept that it's time to grow apart. All this to say, I found each relationship got better and better with time. And this is why. For each relationship I entered, I knew what I didn't like from my past experiences, and I knew what I desired at the different stages of my life. As a teenager, I was craving someone who was fun and adventurous and would go on wild excursions with me. As I got older and wiser, I was looking for a partner who was more stable and more emotionally mature. After the ending of my 12-year relationship, I decided to do something different. When I realized I had basically manifested my perfect job, I thought, what a fun idea it would be to create a list for my future man. So I just want to be clear here. I wasn't actually looking to be in a relationship, but I had a lot of time on my hands, and this is what I decided to do with it. So I had written down the qualities of a man that I really liked. I wrote down what I needed in a relationship and what was missing from all the others. And I also wrote down some hard boundaries, some things that I would absolutely not tolerate within a relationship. And here's the funny thing. I honestly believed that this man was out there and that he existed. I just didn't know what he looked like. Plus, I was in no rush to meet him because I didn't really care to be in a relationship. I had done this for fun, out of my own entertainment, but I just had so much trust that one day this man was going to find me. During this time, I was still a bit hung up on my ex, who I thought would come back. I did a lot of inner work, learning to trust that this unfolding was actually happening for a reason. But I was still attached, hoping that things would still turn around. After months went by and there were still no changes on his end, my hope for us getting back together started to fade away. And I realized I was actually emotionally torturing myself. I made a conscious decision one day that it was going to be time to let go of this man. I remember crying so hard, and somewhere in between all of that, there was this huge weight that just lifted off of my shoulders. There was something freeing about me making this decision, and shortly after, I made peace with it. And I began to find more joy, and I found myself laughing again. Funny enough, within a week or so after I had let go of my previous relationship, the person I was describing on that list was standing right in front of me. I was prompted by my spirit guides to pay attention to this guy, but I dismissed it. Later on, someone else brought him to my attention again, and by the end of the day, he was trying to add me to Facebook. I accepted it and then started to gather as much details I could about this person, and I later realized he was checking off so much items on my list that I was beyond amazed. What's interesting is that I didn't have a strong desire to be with anyone, and I think this is one of the major reasons why I'm able to manifest relationships so easily. It's because I'm not attached to the outcomes, or I'm not dwelling on the fact that I need to be in a relationship. I find when we believe and we're open and we know exactly what we deserve, the easier it is to call in what we desire. The more we cling on to feeling desperate about wanting something, it starts to skew with the energy, and the universe holds off until you're sending out clearer signals. So to sum this all up, what I found, in order to call in your desires, you need to get very clear on what it is that you want. You have to know your worth. You have to know what you deserve and believe it's out there for you. This brings your energy up to a frequency that is aligned with your desires. And then you can watch as the universe starts to bring this all together. You may need to take some leaps of faith and make some moves, because it won't flow if you're just standing still. You need to take action. For example, if I wanted to go meet people yet I was sitting at home watching TV, it's just not going to happen. If you want a job yet you're not inquiring or applying for jobs, the job will not come. Taking action is so important when it comes to calling in what you desire. So, if you're feeling stuck, maybe start thinking about exactly what it is that you want. Get really clear on it. Set some boundaries. Say what it is that you want and what you don't want. Know that it's out there, and watch the magic as it begins to unfold. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you feel called to, please share this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and review. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at healwithcare@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at healwithcare. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.